All right, guys. So in this tutorial, I'm going to quickly go over how to install the Metapixel on your website, and it really depends on the theme that you're using, right? If you're using a theme that doesn't support it natively within the settings, then you do it one way. If for example, if you use Divi, Divi allows you to drop in the pixel right into the settings. So, for example, on this website here, you go over to Divi theme options, and then you go to integration, and you drop it into the head area. So a lot of the themes will have this built in. More like the modern ones, like Divi Elementor, they all have a section where you can drop it in. If your site doesn't have it, then you have another option, right? You can also go to appearance, and then theme file editor. I'm going to point this out, but I don't recommend that you do your work this way, that you edit the theme file, because it gets a little more technical, and you run there are a few potential issues that you'll see later on. And that's that if you update your theme, then you run the risk of overriding the code, and then it goes away, right? So here in this case, I set up a child theme, and then you would go ahead and edit. In this case, you would edit the header file and then drop it in between the head code. Now, again, the risk with this is that you override it when you update the website. Another risk is that you drop in code here and you don't place it in the right spot. So if I were to drop it in here, right, that snippet that I copied earlier, the Facebook pixel, then I'll literally break my site, right? Because you notice that's some PHP code there. You drop it in there, you've pretty much taken your site down as soon as you hit save, right? So unless you know what you're doing and you have a very specific reason why you would add it here, I don't recommend you do it this way. I'm just pointing it out because this is an option. Some people run very lean websites, and they want to do it this way. So they don't want to add plugins. They don't want to mess with anything else. They want it here. It's totally fine if you know what you're doing, right? And again, here it would go between. You have to make sure that it goes between the head tags, right? So to go like ideally, I'd probably put it here. Okay, I drop it in there, right? But I'm not doing it this way. Now, the way I would do it, if I didn't know, if I wasn't sure, then I would simply add a new plugin that allows you to drop in code anywhere. And what I would do is you go with, I believe this is what it's called, header and footer. Okay, so this one here is rated 5 stars, 3.3 million active installs. Usually that's what I look for, right? I look for plugins that have good rating and have a lot of active users. That means that people obviously trust it, but this is most likely being updated by the developer. The risk with installing one that even if it has 5 stars but has fewer active installations, those tend to eventually be abandoned, and so then you'll have to come back and replace it. But I believe I've used this one in the past, but let's try this one, right? So we would install it. Okay, it's been installed, and then we would activate it, and then we find it now, right? So now we got to find it here, most likely in our settings. If not our settings, then we can look at tools. And where is it? Okay, maybe, is this it? Yes, this is it. So it's actually, it's not in tools, and it's not in settings. So some of the plugins will install and they'll be located there. In this case, for whatever reason, the developer decided that they wanted it at the same level as your other options on in the WordPress admin section. So we go to header and footer, and then you notice now here header. So what we do here is we go ahead and we would drop it here, right? You notice that I already have something there. It picked it up from another section, so I must already be running a plugin and it detected that, or it just copied over whatever content was already defined somewhere else. But in any case, say you install this plugin, you go to header and footer, this is where you would drop it in. So let's pretend it's not there. You simply, let's pretend this is empty. You drop it in there, and now you have your Facebook pixel code. You hit save, and you're good to go. Now, another thing that you need to do, right, is once you've installed it, okay, I'm not going to hit save there, and I am going to actually remove this plugin, but I'll do that later. So then what you want to do to make sure that it's installed, you want to then go to the front end. Again, I'm not saving any of the changes. You go to the front end and you have to ensure that you have this plugin installed. I'm using Chrome, so look for Meta Pixel Helper. So if you were to go to manage extensions, you would go to Chrome Web Store, and it's called Meta Pixel Helper. So you go to Meta Pixel Helper. Okay, you hit install and activate. I believe activate here. You install it, and then once you go to a site, okay, once you go to your site, you make sure you reload it so that it detects it. And it'll show you your pixel ID. It tells you it's active. It tells you it's running. All right, so this is the most basic setup. There are some setups that require you to track page conversions or like specific pages or specific events. For that, you need to, that's at the code level. So that's at the metapixel code level. You have to ensure that you're bringing in the proper metapixel and placing it on the specific page. If it's an event, if it's a custom conversion, you want to make sure that you place that pixel on the right page so that Facebook tracks that conversion, that event properly. All right. So if you need any help, remember, reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to help you out with your custom installation or whatever project you're working on.